Welcome to the Explainer. So today we're kind of putting on our market detective hats to solve a pretty massive mystery going on right now in Singapore's housing landscape. I mean, if you've been tracking property trends since the pandemic, you absolutely know the story, right? Just relentless upward price growth. But suddenly, the data is telling a very, very different story. And the implications for your wallet? They're huge. All right, let's dive right into the core clue here. In the first quarter of 2026, HDB resale prices actually dropped by exactly 0.1%. Now, I know what you're thinking. That number sounds like a rounding error at the grocery store, right? But in the housing market, oh, it's a massive deal. Because this marks the very first quarterly decline in public housing resale we've seen in nearly 7 years. That takes us way back to well before the pandemic completely upended the market. So this naturally leads us to ask the million-dollar question, perhaps literally. Have the wild, unbridled price surges of the pandemic era finally come to an end? And more importantly, what does that mean for your next move? Have we hit a ceiling, or is this just a quick momentary pause in a market that has literally known nothing but an upward trajectory for almost 7 years? To figure this out, we need to look at Section 1, our main culprit, the mop wave. You guys, the sheer scale of this shift is just staggering. Back in 2025, flats reaching their 5-year minimum occupation period, or MOP as we call it, hit an 11-year low of just under 7,000 units. But in 2026, we are looking at an estimated 13,480 flats reaching their MOP. That is a whopping 93.3% increase. We are talking about nearly double the amount of fresh resale inventory being suddenly unlocked for buyers. And the craziest part? This isn't just a one-year blip. It's a sustained pipeline. Nearly 54,000 resale flats are projected to hit the market between 2026 and 2028. For anyone out there looking to buy, the implication here is profound. You suddenly have leverage. With so many freshly minted flats available all at once, sellers are going to be the ones sweating to attract a buyer, not the other way around. But the mop wave didn't act alone. Let's move to Section 2, the accomplices, namely policies and alternatives. So what's happening is the primary housing market is actively stealing demand right out from under the resale market. A massive ramp-up of build-to-order, or BTO, and sale-of-balance flats has essentially given desperate buyers an exit ramp. You no longer have to just run to the resale market and pay those exorbitant premiums just to get a roof over your head. You've actually got options. Buyers finally has real alternatives, which is a real game changer. I mean, there are almost 20,000 BTO flats planned for this year alone, and crucially, over 4,000 of them have wait times under 3 years. That effectively erases the resale market's biggest advantage, which was immediacy, right? Add to that the highly subsidized prime and plus models, plus tighter loan limits introduced in August 2024 that literally capped how much buyers can borrow, and you've got the perfect recipe for a price cooldown. Buyers can afford to wait. And honestly, they have less borrowed cash to bid up prices anyway. Of course, there's always a twist. In Section 3, we're looking at the exceptions, those million-dollar flats. Because despite the overall cooling trend we just talked about, large, centrally located flats in established towns like Toa and Queenstown, they completely ignored the memo. They are continuing to attract buyers who are more than willing to pay top dollar. Why is that? Well, a lot of buyers view these really spacious public units in prime locations as offering comparable value to mass-market private condos, which, let's face it, now often average well above the $2 million mark. Plus, these resale units aren't bound by those strict income ceilings that come attached to the new prime and plus BTO models. To put that into perspective, in just the first quarter of 2026 alone, 412 resale flats transacted for at least $1 million. That's about 6.6% of the total market, a figure that remains incredibly stubborn even as the rest of the market cools down. It just goes to show that there is this persistent, almost bulletproof demand for premium, well-located homes. And the main reason this premium segment remains so undeniably strong? Over 60% of the flats reaching their MOP this year are located in mature estates. So we are essentially injecting a massive amount of high-value inventory directly into the very neighborhoods where demand is the absolute highest. All right, we've gathered all our clues. Let's head to Section 4, the verdict, and exactly what all this means for you today. So, if you're a seller, lease decay is suddenly the most absolutely crucial phrase in real estate right now. Just consider this stark contrast. In early 2026, prices for larger flats with 50 to 59 years left on their leases actually fell by up to 2.3%. But Newer units with 60 to 69 years left, they saw prices rise by over 3%. The ultimate takeaway here? Buyers are getting ruthless about the lifespan of their homes. They simply don't have to settle for older flats anymore. And as market observer Lee Nijia perfectly summarizes, this 0.1% drop isn't the sky falling, not at all. It's actually a healthy transition towards a much more balanced state. Think of the recent policies acting like a pressure valve, working exactly as intended to bleed out that wild pandemic-era froth without actually crashing the whole system. Looking ahead, the forecast is definitely stable, just slower. And here's the kicker. While prices dipped slightly, transaction volume actually jumped by nearly 20% in the first quarter, hitting over 6,200 sales. People are definitely still buying. They're just finally refusing to overpay. With full-year price growth projected at a really modest 2 to 4% and total transactions expected to hit around 26 to 27,500, expect mild fluctuations rather than a nosedive. Buyers get more choices, and current homeowners don't have the rug pulled out from under them. So we're going to leave you with this final thought to really chew on. The pandemic frenzy? It's over. The mop wave is officially here. And for the first time in almost 7 years, the buyer actually holds the power. So with more options in stable prices, is 2026 your year to make a move? Or does this newly balanced market mean it's actually smarter to sit back and watch what opens up next? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you in the next one.